MagMongoSlade. MagMongoSlade.
Let's talk about Money in the Bank because we got to, and the show was absolutely ruined with Triple H's booking. We're going to go through it. We're going to go through it a lot. So this probably should be short, but it's going to be certainly longer than it should be. But we're going to start with the real sad news. Your boy John Cena is retiring. 2025 will be his last year, beginning in January, ending in December. So every event will be his last. It's about time, dog. I think we all saw this coming. I think we've been talking about it for a while. You know, the old John Cena, the last match, what should happen in his final year. And I love that they put it out there. I think that it's good. They just sold a lot of tickets next year because everywhere John Cena shows up will likely be the last place John Cena shows up, similar to what AEW did with Sting. They didn't say what event will be the final event, but they didn't say what's the first event going to be, but they did say from January to December. So we don't know if he's going to be on Raw, if he's going to be on SmackDown, if he's going to be on every week, if it's going to be every once in a while. Is he wrestling every event, every other event? We don't know. But we certainly know that he will be at Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania. So maybe he will work all of the pay-per-views next year. So we ought to have an interesting time. And for a lot of you young guys, you know, who are John Cena is your Hulk Hogan, you know, or Bob Backlund maybe, you know, your Bruno Sammartino. You guys are old. Okay. Welcome to the club, baby. I'm telling you, when I was sitting here and Shawn Michaels was retiring, I couldn't believe it. You know, when Undertaker was, you know, not having a good time, stumbling around the ring in his last year or two, it was not fun. You know, it didn't feel good when Flair had to go. And those are all the people I grew up on, man. It sucked. But it says a lot that when you're looking at the business, in the next 2 years, AJ Styles will be gone, Edge will be gone, Cena will be gone, and Bryan Danielson will be gone. All of them have said this year or next year is their last year. So we live in interesting times. You know, AJ Styles has been around, just about the same amount of time as John Cena. AJ Styles was wrestling in 1999, I think. Cena started in like 2001 or 2000 or something like that. So that sounds about right. Edge has been wrestling since like 96, I think. And he's still hanging around. Danielson started in like 2000, 2001 too. All of them are, well, Edge is a little bit older than the rest of those guys. But they're about in the same age bracket, between 40 and 50. You know, they all started around the same time, you know, give or take a couple of years for Edge, who started kind of young. I see that you guys are getting old. This is how I feel, man. And I feel even older, to be quite honest, because I remember when John Cena was in developmental, and now he's about to be retired, you know? And I know that just puts a lot of pressure on, like, Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton and those guys, because you're looking like those are peers to John Cena. You know, Batista was much older than they were, so him retiring was not that big a deal. He was 30-something when he started. But Orton was like 19, you know? And you got to be thinking it's got to be near the end for him too, you know? And there may be some other guys that we're not even thinking about where this run might be the end for him, you know? But I'm very impressed at Cena's career. I'm very glad he won me over. So I have a great deal of appreciation for John Cena. So it ought to be fun watching him work out the rest of his contract. I just hope that Triple H doesn't botch it, you know? Give him opponents that make sense and storylines that make sense. He should actually win from time to time. He should win most of the time, if we're being honest. But one last match with CM Punk, one last match for Randy Orton. I know a lot of people want that Orton match for WrestleMania. I think the Orton match should be the last match, and I honestly thought the WrestleMania match should have been the end. I don't know if he should finish his career, because there's no pay-per-view in December. So, unless they're going to morph into some kind of John Cena's last match pay-per-view, there's no pay-per-view in December for Cena to wrestle at. So, will his last match be at Survivor Series? Because that's the last pay-per-view of the year. So, I would suggest that he has his final singles match maybe at WrestleMania. Then maybe he works tags for the rest of the year. I guess you could get away with that. But I have some level of appreciation for John. So this is good. And also, when you talk about this particular segment, I like how he didn't milk it. He just came right on out with it. You know, he showed the towel that says the last time is now. And people was like, what does that mean? And then he came out there, he just came right out with it. You know, he announced his retirement. And I was like, whoa. And the fact that it wasn't a work, and you could tell it's not a work. He wasn't out there weeping and crying. He didn't drag it out. I was very impressed. He took the Band-Aid right on off. And then, you know, gave you the bad news and then hyped it up. How it could be a good thing. And that he's been glad to be a part of this and why he was there in Toronto and how great Toronto is. And, you know, I love it. I thought it was a great announcement and I'm looking forward to it. It's just unfortunate that this actually turd brain Triple H is going to be the one looking at, because I can just see that his final match is going to be like Chad Gable or something stupid like that. But we'll see. All right, let's get into the rest of this show because we got to. The men's Money in the Bank was won by Drew McIntyre. Oh boy, Andrade got no reaction to his entrance, which not a surprise considering he's not really featured. He did hit a sunset powerbomb off the ladder though, and that was pretty nutty. I mean, it was kind of crazy. Chad Gable was dangling from the roof of the building, from the, basically from the briefcase, and he fell down, bounced off the mat, and then bounced back to his feet. I was like, why would he do that? Like, why not just take the bump and go down and stay down? Roll outside of the ring or something. Jey Uso almost won, but then Drew McIntyre threw the ladder at his face, and he went tumbling down, and Drew McIntyre won the Money in the Bank. This is absolutely boring. Drew McIntyre winning is an incredibly boring decision. Before we even get into what happened, let's just evaluate this decision. Drew McIntyre just got a title shot at Clash at the Castle. He literally just lost like 3 or 4 weeks ago. He got a title shot at WrestleMania. He won that, but he ended up losing it to the Money in the Bank winner. So it's been 4 pay-per-views this year, maybe 5, and 3 of them has featured Drew McIntyre in championship matches. That's really overexposure. All right, you're overexposing Drew. It's ridiculous. Can we please move on? Now, because it's linked, we have to talk about the World Heavyweight Championship match. Damian Priest, Seth Rollins. Now, Damian Priest wins because Drew McIntyre cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase and got pinned. In the middle of Damian Priest and Seth Rollins, before Drew's cash in, Seth Rollins hits Damian Priest with a Falcon Arrow, if I remember correctly. I think it might have been his combination of Superplex Falcon Arrow. And Damian Priest does not kick out. Instead, the referee botches the count, and everybody's looking at it, and they're confused why the referee would just magically stop the count. Clearly, there was some kind of timing issue. Some people think Damian Priest was knocked out. Other people think that Drew's music was supposed to play, and it didn't. And because it played late, Damian Priest didn't kick out. Whatever the case may be, it's a Falcon Arrow spot. Damian Priest was supposed to kick out. And another thing is they botched something else earlier in the match. I don't remember what it was, so I didn't write it down. But they botched something else earlier in the match. So before we even get to the cash-in spot, Damian Priest is not looking like a strong champion. You know, and this is his second title defense on pay-per-view, and it's filled with botches and showing that he's uncoordinated. He has never looked so bad. Like, I get it. Maybe we're dealing with he's been pushed beyond his capabilities, because I've never seen Damian Priest look this shitty as he's looked in these last two matches. Getting his legs tangled up in the ropes, not kicking out here. What is going on with this guy? You know, it's just a question. I'll still like him, kind of. I don't like the storyline that he's trapped in. I don't like that he doesn't look strong. He looks like shit, but that's Triple H booking him. So Drew McIntyre cashes in because it's highly intelligent to cash in the middle of the match and not when, you know, both opponents are knocked out. As soon as he cashes in, CM Punk attacks him, beats him with a chair, actually strangles him on camera with cable cords, which is very interesting, considering that's what got Bryan Danielson fired from WWE for like 2 weeks or whatever. Michael Cole is, Phil, what are you doing? My job. So Phil gets the belt. Phil hits Drew in the head with the belt. Drew gets a South of Heaven chokeslam, gets pinned. Damian Priest is looking very unhappy because, you know, two reasons. Likely because of the botch, but also because he managed to win his title match, but he also didn't look strong doing so. He got help, and he didn't want anybody interfering in his title match. And Drew McIntyre interfered. So then you also get the bonus content of Seth Rollins screaming at CM Punk because he has also lost his ability to challenge for the title as long as Damian Priest holds it. And so Punk has screwed Rollins indirectly in his vitriol of trying to screw McIntyre. And I'm supposed to be super excited about this, except this is the worst usage of the Money in the Bank. Triple H has pissed all over the Money in the Bank 3 times. 3 years in a row. He has shit all over the men's Money in the Bank. Just pissed, shitted all over it. What is wrong with this dude? Now, I've seen every iteration of the argument that you could possibly have over, you know, all the Triple H apologists, all the big nose brown nosers are trying to, you know, cop pleas for Triple H. Oh, the world champ, who are they going to cash it in on, man? Cody's not going to get, you can't cash in on Cody, man. You can't cash in on Gunther, man. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen within the course of the year. The Money in the Bank is not a thing that you have to cash in that same night or in 2 weeks or whatever. It's a large block of time. You have 1 calendar year. 1 calendar year. At any point in time throughout that year, somebody could cash in that briefcase. You do not know what's going to happen between now and July of next year. You don't know if Damian Priest is going to break his goddamn leg in that match later tonight. You don't know if somebody's going to get COVID and be out for a month. You don't know what in the world is going to happen. And for you to just flush the Money in the Bank year after year after year because it doesn't fit in your plan, you're a fucking idiot. You're an idiot. Nobody is saying that the guy had to win. I'm not even saying that Drew should have won. I'm saying if he wasn't going to win, if you were going to have CM Punk screw him, he should have screwed him in the ladder match. Why did CM Punk let him win? Oh, Punk said he's never going to let Drew McIntyre be the champion. Okay. Why did he let him win the ladder match? He was in the building. Why did he let him win? Why let him get so close? It's it doesn't make sense. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's clear as crystal that Triple H does not know how to book the Money in the Bank. He doesn't know what he's doing. So his options are put it on somebody nobody cares about, like Damian Priest, and then put him on the back burner forever. Or just piss on it because it doesn't fit into my plans right now. It's like, fuck your plans right now. There is a great deal. Look, that's like saying we shouldn't have Royal Rumbles because, well, they're just going to lose, so we shouldn't have Royal Rumbles. Like, what? Who cares? It's not the point. The point isn't whether somebody wins or loses. It's something that people look forward to. You people look forward to the Money in the Bank. And you pissed on it. You could have, at the very least, if you were going to do anything weird, you could at least attempt to make somebody new. Attempt. Now, of course, he tried that with the women's. He tried to balance it out. So everybody's like, oh, well, look at what he did. He did the right thing when it comes to the women. Oh, you got 2 chances. You got one of them right. Great job. Congratulations on your 50%. You know, that's stupid thinking. You could have went 2 for 2. This is an unforced error. You went completely blank. Look, there is nothing coming out. Look, I'm trying to organize my thoughts. The Seth Rollins angle is the only new angle that's added to this whole scenario. And Rollins was already mad at Punk from last year. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk has been beefing since November. They did not need the Money in the Bank to add more fuel to this feud. They've been beefing since before the Royal Rumble. Why do you need to now? And you already had the Money in the Bank mixed up in this. That's how the Damian Priest got it. So you could have took that Money in the Bank and did something else with it. His inability to plan, to think things through, to adapt is absolutely embarrassing. It's embarrassing. You only get one shot at this. It's once a year, the Money in the Bank thing. And let's say your plans went perfectly all year. Well, guess what? You have another piece on the table that you could do other things with. You could have somebody challenge the person who has the Money in the Bank briefcase, and they could lose it to that person. Or you could do something where they bet the Money in the Bank in a different kind of match, or they just defend it in other matches, or maybe they just have it. And then they make, a challenge. And then they lose. I mean, what's wrong with that? We're going to have random people challenge for the title anyway. I mean, is it so wrong that the Money in the Bank winner exists when you're going to probably have goddamn Xavier Woods wrestle for the title anyway, which is the kind of shit they do already? Oh, it's going to be a World Heavyweight Championship match. It's going to be Damian Priest versus Akira Tozawa. It's like, who cares? You do that kind of people. We've been doing that crap forever. Random people get title shots. So what? So what? Don't put nobody in the ladder match that you don't want to win. You have so many opportunities and so many fun things you could have done. You could have had LA Knight win it, and LA Knight could have had the Money in the Bank, and Logan Paul is the U.S. champion, and you could have had Logan Paul try to goad LA Knight into putting the Money in the Bank on the table, similar to Shelton Benjamin and Rob Van Dam, where they had the winner take all match. You could have tried that. You could have given it to Jey Uso, and then had Jey Uso get mixed up in the bloodline thing because he's trying to cash in on Cody, or he's going to cash in thinking that Solo is going to win and he's going to beat Solo for the belt or something like that. You could have put it on Carmelo Hayes, who is a young guy who is not over, that nobody talks about, and try to make a star out of him. You could have put it on Andrade and did something similar to what I was, my fantasy booking idea of putting him with Charlotte. And even if he just loses in the end anyway, at least he got a big staple victory, a spotlight on him. That matters. Instead, you give the title to a guy who just lost 4 weeks ago and who had been losing before that. How many times did Drew McIntyre lose to Seth Rollins before he finally beat him? This has been going on for months. Everybody's like, oh, this opens up all these new avenues for storytelling. Look at all the new avenues you have. Look at all the great roads you have to tell stories. You've been telling the same story since November. These guys have been arguing and fussing since November. Since CM Punk walked in the door, they've been arguing. Here it is, July. They still have not had a match yet. They don't need no more kindling on that fire. You could have had the exact same reaction if Punk would have screwed McIntyre out of the Money in the Bank briefcase. You could have gotten the same exact reaction. Oh, Drew McIntyre, he elbowed Adam Pearce. Oh man, he's out of control, bro. He could have did that anyway. Same reaction, same thing. And oh, poor Seth Rollins. He can't challenge for the title as long as Damian Priest has it. But everybody knows Damian Priest ain't gonna have it but like 2 more weeks, and then he's gonna lose it to the Crimson Chin. And you can't beat him, for God's sake. He can lose to Sami Zayn, but heavens to Betsy, he can't wrestle Carmelo Hayes or Andrade and beat them. What do you think he is, a wrestler? He's got to wrestle Bronson Reed, for God's sake. He's got to go out there and have... when he was the Intercontinental Champion, I'm talking about Gunther now. When he was the Intercontinental Champion, he didn't feud with anybody. He had a feud with Chad Gable. His second feud was with Sami Zayn, and he lost to Sami Zayn. All the other matches were random contenders, triple threat matches, fatal 4-way winners, all that garbage. Not anybody who was actually in a feud with him. And we're all of a sudden treating this guy like he's fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin, like he's the Undertaker. And he deserves a nice long title run. Like, are you kidding me? I like Gunther as much as everybody else, but please, stop acting like, this is like a home run king. He's not like some kind of ratings draw. He's not like some pay-per-view draw. He just won King of the Ring, and he vanished for a month. So he's ice cold now too. He earned a championship match. Oh, that King of the Ring. That vaunted King of the Ring tournament. That's not even a real King of the Ring tournament where, you had to wrestle 3 matches or 2 matches in a night. He had to wrestle 1 and won it. Oh, congratulations. So now all of a sudden, you get a guaranteed championship match at SummerSlam, which is I'm all for. I'm okay with that. But why did we have to piss all over the Money in the Bank? Why is the Money in the Bank, which is a draw, which creates drama in your storytelling, it allows you to adapt if in case of sickness or injury or something else. It gives you somewhere else you could pivot to. Why did you piss all over that? Or even if you were going to have the guy who won the Money in the Bank lose, then give it to somebody else. And have them lose in a different way, at a different time. You threw the Money in the Bank in the garbage in less than an hour. It was like 40 minutes later. We went from, he's Money in the Bank winner to, no Money in the Bank for the rest of the year. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming. It's like winning the Royal Rumble and losing the Royal Rumble and losing your championship match in the same night. It's stupid, man. Why anybody get excited for these shows for starters, and this is the most obvious thing of it, is that it was predictable. Pretty much everybody with a functioning brain knew once Drew McIntyre won that Punk was going to cut him off and steal the belt from him. So you didn't even surprise anybody. There was no surprise in who won. There was no surprise in the cash-in. There was no surprise in the outcome of the cash-in. And we're supposed to be like, this is really good storytelling. We're in the same position now after the show than we were in before the show. Did you really improve our situation? No, you haven't improved our situation. We're in the same place. But furthermore, and this is another thing that I want to discuss, is that it shows that Triple H is now dedicated to overprotecting these champions and removing any drama or overbearing threat or dread that the Money in the Bank and stuff like it has. Not only did you have certain guys operating in another universe where they never really even get in contact with the champion, but now the Money in the Bank briefcase is not in play. So guys are not allowed to shadow the champion anymore. There's no surprises anymore. There's no, this guy could have turned heel by attacking somebody with the briefcase and winning it. There's nothing like that anymore. That sword of Damascus that hangs over the champion throughout the entire year is gone. So now you're telling me every opponent that these guys are going to wrestle or is going to be some kind of stupid triple threat opponent, some stupid fatal four-way battle royal opponent who's not going to win because, well, you got to book Cody strong. You got to book Gunther strong. And Gunther ain't even got the belt yet. And they're already talking about how he needs to be booked strong as champion. Like, are you serious? This is top tier stupidity. What a waste of everybody's time. Just for what they did with the men's Money in the Bank, which is the most important part of the show, this show cannot be over a 3 out of 5 because of how shitty they booked the men's Money in the Bank. And then when you factor in the Intercontinental Championship, and they had Braun Breaker lose to Sami Zayn clean. He lost to him clean. You have to ask the question, like, bro, is what is floating around inside Triple H's head? I kind of toyed with the idea that Braun Breaker would lose. That he would get a little overzealous. He may even get a little cocky. You know, Sami Zayn hits him with a small package or a schoolboy roll up. Something funky he ain't never seen before. He gets a quick 3 count and that's it. Braun looks strong in the end, but ultimately he's standing up when the match is over. And Sami Zayn is like laid out on the floor, clutching the title because, got out of there with the skin of my teeth. That would have made sense. Having Braun Breaker get beat like he's Chad Gable completely ruins the aura that you were building with him. Now, I've seen, again, people, because they love Papa H, coming out of the woodwork. Oh, Sami Zayn just beat Gunther. I mean, how can, he shouldn't have beat Gunther. That's the important thing. He shouldn't have beat him. And then here's the thing. Braun Breaker is not Gunther. You went through the trouble of building up all this momentum and he lost like this. He looks like everybody else. He literally looks like everybody else. This is how Bronson Reed lost. This is how Chad Gable lost. This is how Akira Tozawa lost. All of these people lost to the same goddamn move. To the same flabby, sick-looking Syrian. How did you elevate Braun Breaker here? Well, at least he had a 50-50. You 50-50 book everybody. So no, he don't look good. Because you 50-50 book everybody. The one dude who is not 50-50 booked with most people goes in there, has a 50-50 match, and loses. And you didn't even protect him in the loss. What is wrong with these people? Look, the only thing I can say is, it's pretty clear. When you factor in what Triple H did on SmackDown when it came to Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, this stuff here, he is really going hard for his black and gold NXT talent. And Drew McIntyre is one of those people because he was the one who brought Drew back. And he is shitting all over the people who could potentially be the future of the company. Again, I had a feeling Sami Zayn would win. That doesn't really bother me that much. The fact that Braun Breaker lost clean is really stupid. It's profoundly stupid. It shows that you don't have any idea of perception, how perception is reality. Braun Breaker been tearing through folks, and you had him lose to Sami Zayn. And I've seen everybody, what about Sheamus? What about Ludwig Kaiser? What about them? Sheamus is a gatekeeper. Ludwig Kaiser is a sidekick. What about them? Have Braun beat them. That's what you do with it. What about the triple threat, the fatal four-way? Who gives a fuck about a triple threat or a fatal four-way match? Nobody cares about those matches anyway. Why would you sacrifice this kid so you can have a fatal four-way match? Just do it with somebody else. If you weren't going to have him win this match, or at least protect him in the loss, why is he even in it? Put somebody else here. You're going to actually actively turn people who are okay with Sami Zayn, because there's a lot of people who are not okay with him, being in the Intercontinental Championship match anyway, because they wanted Chad Gable. I didn't forget that. There's a lot of people who are not happy Sami Zayn is even an Intercontinental Champion right now. It should be Chad Gable. And then you double down by taking somebody that people are actually impressed with, a human highlight reel, and we're going to kill him too. For Sami Zayn? The guy been in WWE like almost 10 years already. He's flabby and sick. It's his 4th time in a Continental Championship run or something like that. This is not like the first time he's ever won the title. And then don't give me no bullshit about him being the overcoming babyface and all that kind of crap. Because he beat the dominant champion Gunther flat in the middle of the ring. God nobody could beat for 600 days. He beat him in the middle of the ring. Clean. And now he wouldn't beat this guy. Nobody could beat him either. He was dominating, crushing guys in less than 5 minutes, and Sami Zayn beat him clean. Oh, but he's still the underdog babyface. You're killing him too. You just don't know that you're doing it. He's not the underdog babyface anymore if the dominant heels can't beat him. It's stupid. But like I said, it's Triple H, right? You see what he did to Austin Theory. You saw how he was treating Tiffany Stratton for all those many months. Look at what he's doing to this fucking kid, man. Completely, totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Completely uncalled for. I guess the last thing here, the women's Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton won the women's Money in the Bank. It was the right decision. This is the one thing on the show you can't really be mad at because it was the right decision. The match itself was chaotic. There was a lot of botches because of, it's women. That one spot where Io was stomping, I think it was Lyra Valkyria's face, was brutal. I mean, it was brutal. Zoe Stark, with her no crowd reaction having ass, did her little tumbling routine and jammed her head right into the ladder. I mean, Jesus Christ. She tried to kill herself. Chelsea Green, who the crowd loves, was the favorite into the match, if we're being honest. I think she's Canadian. The crowd was a Canadian crowd. She takes a huge bump through 2 tables, and then Tiffany Stratton pulls down the briefcase. Then she, even better than her winning the Money in the Bank, she got a little bit of interaction with Trish Stratus afterwards, where she basically told Trish Stratus her time was up, and that it's Tiffy time now. And planted some seeds that might grow later. Are we going to see Trish Stratus maybe face Tiffany Stratton, or maybe begin to have some issues with Tiffany Stratton because she's sort of the updated version of Trish Stratus? That could be, even though, Tiffany models herself mostly after Charlotte. It could be an interesting little dynamic here. So you made a new star with the Money in the Bank. And then you kept that momentum up by her interacting with a legend, what WWE might consider the Stone Cold Steve Austin of the women's division, Trish Stratus, the biggest star of the Attitude Era. Okay, good. Is there one more match left in Trish that she can give it to Tiffany? Interesting. Could she just manage somebody, be in the corner of somebody who's going to challenge or try to beat up Tiffany? Interesting. You also got the fact that Tiffany wants to be buddies with Nia Jax, and Nia Jax has a championship match against Bayley. So do you have, Bayley beat Nia Jax and then Tiffany Stratton cashes in, which could be Nia Jax helping her on purpose or helping her accidentally? We don't know. But you have all of that stuff built in right there. That's interesting. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. If you can't tell, I'm less than enthused with this goddamn show. This show is very frustrating. And I was really kind of taken out of it at match 2. So, those last 3 matches, they had a lot of work to do in order to get me back into it. The John Cena thing actually perked me up because of the way it was delivered, and it was actually something worth talking about. But those first 2 matches, But the main event, the Bloodline defeated Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. Another predictable finish. Everybody knew that Solo was going to pin Cody, and that's exactly what they did. Look, some people say, well, predictable doesn't mean bad. When you're this predictable, then it is bad. Because everybody sees it a mile away. If you throw a predictable punch in boxing, you'll be counterpunched and you'll get knocked out. Or you'll miss your punch and be open to another punch. If you're predictable in chess, you will lose. If you're predictable in a football game, you will throw an interception or get sacked or something like that. Predictability is not good. This was the only thing on the show that was probably predictable. That probably happened the only way that it should have. And I don't know why this was the main event, if I'm being honest. I don't understand why this was the main event. So, anyway, the commentary team was putting over Jacob Fatu really strong, about how Triple H had to work with the Canadian government to make sure he can get in, and he kept talking about how dangerous he was, and they talked about his family. They put him over super strong. Really good. But then later in the match, Tonga Loa was Tonga Loa, and he botched a low blow. Look, Tonga Loa is one of the most inept wrestlers I've ever seen. Legit. I've seen some of his stuff in New Japan, especially some of the stuff right before he left. He's completely and totally inept. It's almost like whatever skill he might have had, he lost in baggage claim in some place in Sapporo or something like that. He thumbed him in the butt first. And I was like, Kevin Owens didn't feel that? He didn't feel that. This was Tonga Loa. He's shits, dog. And if it wasn't for like Jacob Fatu doing like whispers in the wind and all kind of ill shit, I probably would have think this match was kind of whack too. But Jacob Fatu worked his ass off. He did a great job. Great facial expressions, great energy. Randy Orton did what Randy Orton does. Kevin Owens tried hard. Solo seemed to have a little extra oomph, in his performance. They did the right thing in terms of having Solo win to make him a legitimate challenger to Cody. I don't think this is the first time he's pinned Cody either. I think he might have pinned Cody some other time too. Or unless I have it backwards and Cody pinned him. I'm pretty sure Cody beat him on the road to WrestleMania, I think maybe last year. Or maybe earlier this year, was one or the other. So he needed a win in order to become the number one contender, or at least to be a top contender, and he got that. He also needed to beat Cody in order to prove to Roman Reigns that he could beat Cody. So when Roman shows up and starts yapping about whatever, you could at least say that Solo pinned Cody when Roman couldn't, even though Roman beat Cody last year. So this was a completely necessary for the story angle. It just should have been earlier in the night. And maybe the girls should have main evented, or maybe the World Heavyweight title match should have main evented. I just don't think it was a strong main event. I just don't think it was the top draw of the show. I think the Money in the Bank match, like the Royal Rumble, unless it's a championship match or something, should main event the show. But it wasn't bad. The main event wasn't bad. Most of the matches were not really poorly performed. That women's Money in the Bank match was chaotic. And some people say it was chaotic in a good way. I think it was chaotic in a mostly negative way, because it did look very dangerous. Like they were really like tearing their own bodies up. But that added an element of intrigue to it, to a degree. Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker technically wasn't even a bad match. But when you have a crappy finish that really just kind of insults me, I really don't care about the match anymore. And, that match did that. It was the same thing with the World Heavyweight Championship match. Even though Damian Priest got knocked out or whatever happened to him, he couldn't kick out, I still don't think it was a terrible match. It was just an angle, really. They turned the match into an angle with the Money in the Bank stuff. So, whatever. It seemed like you had 5 matches, but it really only felt like 2 matches actually occurred. The Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker was a real match, and the main event was a real match. The two latter matches are gimmicks, and the World Heavyweight Championship match was turned into a gimmick. So, it is what it is. Overall, though, I still would give the show, probably that a solid 2.5. There was nothing that was particularly wrong with it, but the booking was so terrible and so predictable and made the show so boring, like dreadfully boring. And like, I'm not saying, off the wall book things and have like Trish Stratus crash the women's Money in the Bank match and win in 16 seconds or whatever. Like, you can do weird things that nobody expects. And sometimes that's fun. Like, that's the fun stuff is people don't understand that some of the fun things in wrestling is when things don't make sense. Like Santino being the last person in the Royal Rumble. And people actually get behind him and like, oh shit, Santino could win. It's not really that they want Santino to win. It's just fun that he's there in that situation. Same thing when he was like the last person in the Elimination Chamber. It's not that he could win. It's just fun that he's in that position, And the whole thing with Otis winning the Money in the Bank, that was fun, Clearly he was not going to be the champion. So the story was structured in a way where he got screwed out of it. He didn't get his, he should have got something out of it. The Miz got his comeuppance for screwing him, but it wasn't Otis who did it. It was Bobby Lashley who got him. But it was an interesting way of doing things. You create stories, you create angles where you keep people guessing. This is what they're supposed to be doing with this whole WrestleMania documentary. They kept talking about, to keep people guessing. They don't know which way you're going. Guess what? Since the opening bell of this show, I knew which way you were going. I was hoping, and in my predictions, I was saying, like, I really hope you just take a chance. Take a chance with something else. But no, it just continuously the same shit. The tried and true method. Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, Damian Priest because of, CM Punk. Tiffany Stratton was a bit of a gamble, I guess. And the Bloodline beating Cody. I mean, all of this was very predictable. All of it was incredibly safe. You go see it 2 weeks ago before the show even happened. So you didn't really need to watch this show because almost all of this stuff you could have called. If you were following the story, you could have just called it. And then that was it. So there was no reason to get excited. And no reason to watch it. Like, people watch it because they want to be swerved. And I'm not talking about Vince Russo swerve as in you bait and switch people. I'm saying that anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation. That's what I'm saying. Don't tell me this has to happen for this story. Because guess what? It doesn't. You're the writer of the story. You can tell the story any way you want. And keep all your pieces in like, nobody's guaranteeing or telling you what to do. You chose to fuck over the Money in the Bank and throw it in the garbage on an angle that's already over, that's already as hot as it's going to be, that just involved blood, and now we're just going to burn 2 Money in the Banks on this feud. Like, come on, man, stop it. Enough's enough, though. I'm actually getting kind of tired of Drew McIntyre because they're over pushing him. Like, you thought he was over pushed in 2020. He's super over pushed now, bro. Because he hadn't been doing nothing but challenging for titles and losing since 2020. And now his entire character is, Twitter troll guy, and he's on Moxie and Punk on Twitter and all this kind of shit. It's like he's being booked like he's not 6'6", 270 pounds of muscle. He's being booked like he's Chad Gable or something like that. And to me, that's one of the most ridiculous things to see. When you really take into account how massive Drew McIntyre is, CM Punk should be getting stomped by Drew McIntyre easily. But no. Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk should look like CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar. That's how it should look. But it's not how it's going to look because that's not how they want to push Drew McIntyre. But you would think with how pissed off he is after being embarrassed in Glasgow, after being embarrassed at WrestleMania, after being embarrassed on this show, because humiliating Drew McIntyre and cucking him completely 100 times over is good booking. He should be so angry that he should be breaking CM Punk's fingers one at a time. And he could do that if he wanted to. And it would be 100% believable. But that's not how they're going to book this thing. So, I don't know. As far as SummerSlam is concerned, the card is pretty much already put together. It's going to be Bayley versus Nia Jax. They've already told us that. So the idea that Nia Jax could quite possibly wrestle whoever the women's champion on Raw is, that's skipping my mind. Oh, Liv Morgan. No. It's going to be Nia Jax. It's going to be Nia Jax and Bayley. So it's going to be Punk and McIntyre, which could have been for the World Heavyweight title and would have been interesting. But instead, it's going to be a upper mid-card feud. You know, it's a main event, technically. With a little bit more heat than it needs. Seth Rollins, I don't know where he fits on that card. Cody versus Solo. And probably some multi-man garbage for the Intercontinental title. And Logan Paul and LA Knight for the US belt. So it might be 6 matches, maybe. But knowing Triple H, he'll probably trim it down to 5 and bump LA Knight and Logan Paul to SmackDown. Because fuck actually getting over on the pay-per-view, you know. Why didn't they have Logan Paul cost LA Knight the Money in the Bank briefcase? Wouldn't that have been easy to do? To sort of protect him? Again, the idea that you could protect people and actually keep them strong by having folks... I guess you couldn't have a bunch of people do outside interferences. I'm not saying like the Wyatts should have interfered and cost, you know, Chad Gable a match, and it should have been like one after the other. But you have a lot of guys in that match. You could have just kept 1 or 2 of them strong by having their rival interfere. And I think Logan Paul punching out LA Knight in the Money in the Bank ladder match would have been great for their feud, and their feud does need heat. You know, that feud does need some more heat. But whatever. Let me know what you guys think. I'm pretty sure all of you, or, you know, if you're part of the big nose, brown nose brigade, you're going to tell me that I'm wrong. And I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. But other than that, like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.